is to see the other side of the case, which is what the prosecutors do. We see each other's side of the case. A lawyer is supposed to be able to, a good lawyer is supposed to understand what the lawyer on the other side. I enjoy the adversary system. This is what I live through. And I'm going to tell you the prosecutors can do it. In fact, I believe that most of them will tell you that, yes, they'll take the responsibility if it's given to them. But right now, there's just such a crush of people. And after all, prosecutors are elected officials. They're elected to do the job, but they're also elected because people think that they're the ones who are going to find criminals and put them in jail and throw away the keys. Well, that's not the case. 95% of these people are getting out, and they're getting out in worse condition.
In the 60s, rehabilitation was a bugaboo and thought not to work. Are you saying we go back to a situation where we try to rehabilitate?
I wish that that were so. You'll notice that we have a prison in LaGrange that's called a reformatory. We have not labeled any of our prisons reformatories. We've given up on that. Well, we know that there's a chance. Why do we set up drug courts if there's not a chance for rehabilitation? Why do we have programs? Unfortunately, there are not nearly enough of these programs to rehabilitate people. There is some success. We ought to try it. And if it's not that success, we're making things worse. Well, the whole system, the system of putting people in jail and putting them in a position to not be productive citizens when they get out. I'm just saying that prosecutors are the people who go to people in the community. Oh, let me tell you another thing. You may not realize this, but in the legal system, as a defense lawyer, my ethical responsibility is to my client. I can my client can do anything he can to hurt any other person so long as he gets his best outcome. That is not the ethic of a prosecutor. A prosecutor's ethic is to be fair to every citizen, including the defendant's family, the victims, and to us taxpayers. That is the prosecutor's ethical duty under the laws of this state. I'm just merely saying that prosecutors have an ability to do something about it. I want to be the person who takes the responsibility for that in the Attorney General's office and translating that into something that prosecutors can live with. Prosecutors can live with in their own elected areas, but not only that, but in their own consciences.
Of the problems you're seeing that have gotten you to this point, how many of them start with a root native cause involving drugs?
I think that the statistics show that 80% of people who come into the system are, drug-related in some fashion or another. Theft cases, intoxication, trafficking, possession. I think that may be a little high because I see people with all sorts of other kinds of problems. Be that as it may, because of the high incidence of drug abuse, we could probably catch a lot more people. I've gone around the streets of the communities I live and practice in, and I can tell you I can buy drugs. I don't want to. I'm 61 years old. But, I go to these places. Young men typically come to my car and offer to sell me drugs. If they offer it to me, they can offer it to anyone. You can get these on any street, unfortunately, in every community in this state, perhaps. And I'm talking about those are street drugs. Think of the abuse of the prescription drugs that's so high, the abuse that's going on, because I don't want to be negative on what doctors do. It just seems like there's so much prescription of substances that lead to other than pain relief. It's used for getting high, partying. I'm not against partying and getting high. Well, getting high, there is illegal high alcohol, but I'm not a drinker. I did bartend. But I'm not sure that it helps us in the long run to encourage that kind of situation. We put drugs in the hands of people who, I mean, once the doctor prescribes it, it's gone.
As Attorney General, would you work to do any early intervention education programs?
I would do what the prosecutors suggest. I would work with them. Yes, if that's what they think can control the situation, possibly. Right now we have such a crisis in the jail system that, maybe your early intervention would work, but, I've seen statistics on the DARE program that seem to say that it doesn't make much difference, but gosh, I know the police officers who are in there, and I know my little girl who's gone to DARE programs. I want this to work. I want it to be a positive thing. I'm just not sure how that works in the community other than drug treatment, the 12-step program. I mean, there's one judge I've talked to who sends people to church rather than to community service. Now, I'm a minister's son. I think my church is wonderful. Raising a little girl in a church gives me so much feeling of strength and support, but I'm not pushing my religion on anyone else. But it seems like that the hope for some people is through their religious beliefs. And even if that small hope can be maintained through some of the, let's call it an intervention program, faith-based intervention program, I'm all for it. I'm sort of embarrassed. My father, used to come to schools and he used to say that I don't know what they wanted me to speak about, but I'm a minister of the Lord Jesus Christ, and I was crawling under the table. I was embarrassed by it. But then again, if it helps people get out of this horrible addiction, horrible periods of incarceration, and their families are suffering too. We pay for that. We pay for them and their families. If it helps, yeah, I'm for that. But I want to, again, the Attorney General, as Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the state of Kentucky, has to be mindful that he has to be with, not operating against the prosecutors of the state.
There are so many statutes